What's up, everybody? Brick here, Brickhouse Garage. We are under a 2014 CRV. It's my mother-in-law's car. I'm getting ready to take it for a Texas State inspection. Figured I'd take a look around underneath of it, do an oil change real quick before I take it there because they always offer to change your oil. So, first thing you want to do before you start working on any car is think about the safety. What's going to kill me? So, with most cars, you have the pin trail. People jack it from there, and they put the jack stands under there. This car, they actually have a extended pin trail. It's a great spot for jacking it. So get underneath of there. Sometimes I use a rubber mallet and just kind of tap stuff to see what's hard and what's plastic and what's kind of just like floor reinforcement. You don't want to slip off anything like that and hurt yourself. So make sure you're on something solid that's actually part of the frame. Some people like to jack from the knuckles and stuff like that, or subframe bolts. Just make sure it's something that you can get the jack stand to sit flat on. If you're under jack stands, obviously I use a lift. It makes life a lot easier, and it's just, I feel way safer than jack stands. Anytime you got to go underneath the car, you're going to want to take a look at some general maintenance stuff just to make sure that everything is working the way it's supposed to. I would check my tie rod ends, my steering rack, my sway bar interlinks, the strut, axle boots, castellated nuts, control arms, just to make sure that everything is working the way it's supposed to, nothing's bent, and especially these boots, make sure there's grease in them. If it's all leaking out and stuff, you know that joint's no good. It's just going to wear itself out pretty quick. You can also check your brake pads, make sure everything's good to go. So just look around. Usually if something's not right, you'll see it pretty easy. A lot of cars you can just match side to side. Hey, this doesn't look like this side. So do a little look around real quick before you get to whatever maintenance you're doing, kind of like oil changes or belts or anything like that, hoses. All right, we're gonna go to the oil change. All right, so oil change is pretty self-explanatory. A lot of people, I find, just don't do it. It's pretty cheap to get done by somebody else. It's about the same price usually, and you don't have to do it. But it is nice to put your car up and take a look underneath. So they made it easier and easier. I mean, this drain pan actually says engine oil right here with an arrow towards this plug. So we know that's the drain plug. They will usually have like some kind of crush washer or something you should replace on occasion, but most of the time, if you're doing an engine or an oil change, that washer is going to be fine, unless somebody stripped it or messed it up. So just inspect it and make sure it's good to go. Oil filters, on the other hand, car manufacturers are getting more and more into let's play hide the oil filter. So sometimes it'll be down here, sometimes it'll be up in a cubby hole, sometimes it'll be on top now. Kind of like screwed down. Subarus and that kind of stuff kind of have weird locations for them. Just consult your manufacturer's manual, YouTube it. A lot of people just use YouTube now. Most of the stuff you can get on there. But this is a Honda, so Honda's pretty good at putting it right there where you can find it, just because, you know, their techs turn over so much stuff, and it's really a good car company to work on, because a lot of the parts are cheap. They're super reliable. So I mean, I like Chevys, man. I'm a hardcore Chevy guy, but Hondas, for the bang for your buck, if it's a daily driver, you can't beat it. So I'm gonna knock this out real quick, and then we'll get to Philip. I also like to go up top, and I open the hood and I look for an oil filter when I'm up there. But I also take the cap off so that it lets the air in, and it'll make it a little easier for you to get that oil to start running. So I don't like getting super dirty when I do oil changes. So usually I'll put this stand up here, I'll pump it up to where it's right underneath the pan. Use my ratchet. I'm pushing in with the ratchet to hold the plug, and then I just kind of turn it out. I let it drip on my ratchet, it's fine. And then let the oil run out. So I'm gonna grab a rag, wipe this thing off, and that way we don't lose our bolt into our drain pan. So we got our oil draining right now. I'm gonna grab my wrench because this filter's a little tight. So I'll show you a cheap one you can get from Harbor Freight, a couple bucks. So here's your wrench. It's about $5 at Harbor Freight. Usually you can get it on sale with a coupon pretty easy. What we're gonna do is just grab that filter and crack it. And you're gonna get some oil spill right here. So this is probably gonna be the only place you're gonna wanna wear gloves because it's gonna just leak out. But we'll go nice and slow. And I have a ton of different drain pans. The one I like to use for these oil filters is kind of a graduated drain pan that has a ledge on it so it can drain them. I'm just going to pour it out a little bit on here and then I'll switch over. You will have about an inch of thread, usually ½ inch or 3/4 of an inch of thread holding this sucker on. So we're just dip it out a little bit right there and then we'll go put it in the other pan. Once everything's done draining, you go ahead and put your plug back in, put your oil filter on, and we'll be back for that in a second. Okay, oil filters. So you see that red O-ring right there? You're going to make sure you lubricate that. Another thing you want to make sure is when you take the oil filter off that O-ring comes off with it. So if you don't, sometimes it'll get stuck up here and now you have a double O-ring situation where it creates a spot for it to leak and it's not going to tighten up right. So double check that. You're also going to want to fill this up with oil before you put it on. It's just one little step that makes it a little easier for your oil pump to pressurize and get that new oil flowing around. So we're going to let that finish dripping. I'm going to go fill this up and we'll install it. All right, so before I was talking about that little crush washer on the end of your drain plug. So what this is it's just a more malleable metal to go between the two different metals to keep it from, to give it a little squish. So if you can look real close, you can see kind of an indentation right there, a little deformity where it crushed into the hole to create that seal. This one looks fine. I'm just going to reuse it. But if it's super deformed or it's wavy, you're creating another spot where an oil leak can happen. So just kind of inspect it, make sure it's good to go, and then go ahead and put it back in. This thing's just dribbling at this point. We're going to go ahead and put the drain plug back in. When it comes to installing the drain plug, I just use my little ratchet and give it a little snug. You don't have to go crazy. Don't make it worse for the next guy, but that's plenty snug right there. All right, and then we'll wipe her off and we'll go on to the filter. All right, so now we're gonna put the filter on. So these are, you just hand tight, don't go crazy. You're just gonna put it up there, give it a little spin and it should grab. If it doesn't, backspin it a little bit to get it to grab, and just hand tight, as tight as you can get it with your hands. And if you're slipping, just kind of take a rag and grab it with a rag. Never use your pliers on that, just because you don't want to dent and deform that outer shell, because that's ultimately what creates all the passageways for the filter to work properly. So just hand tight, should be good to go. After you fill it up, come down and do a leak check just to make sure, but for the most part, this one's pretty easy. Like I said, sometimes it's up in a corner, sometimes it's hidden by a door. So you might have like a plastic baffle that goes all the way underneath of this, and you got to take that off to kind of get to that one little, up in that little nook to get it. That usually ends up being a problem. I usually take the whole plastic baffle off, because what happens is you'll take that sucker off and the oil will run along the side of the case and then down away from that door, and now you got oil coming out of 3 different places. Just take the whole baffle off and save yourself a lot of headache and a lot of mess. When it comes to oil, wear something that you don't mind getting dirty. This is my brother Glenn's Booth Construction shirt. I wear this thing constantly, and it's got some paint on it, some other stuff, but it's a nice big comfy shirt, and I know I can get another one from him if I really need it. So but once you get oil on something, it's going to smell like oil for a long time. And then any clothes you wash with, it's going to smell like oil. When it comes to rags, use something you can throw away. I like using shop towels to wipe stuff down. Spray a little brake clean on it and wipe it off. But yeah, hand tight. Let's go up top. We're under hood now. You can always find your cap installed on any valve, on a valve cover, usually passenger side, sometimes it's driver side. Most of these cars, this is a 4-cylinder, so it's right in the middle, dead center of the engine bay. But on there, it'll tell you what kind of oil you're using. This is 0-weight-20. And then it's not going to tell you how much to put in there. So you have to check your owner's manual for that. If you can't find your owner's manual, you can ask them when you go to buy your oil, hey, how much do I put in? They can look it up in their computer. They can also look up what weight you're supposed to be putting in there, what you're supposed to be using. If it's full synthetic, or if it's partial synthetic, or if it's traditional. You're going to take this time to actually look at everything. We're going to look at our brakes and make sure there's plenty of fluid in there. There's some lines on the side. This one's right at max. You can fill your washer fluid while you're under here. You also can pop open your air box and inspect the filter. I changed it the last time I did the oil change on this, so we know that one's good. You can pull it out, spray it out with a air compressor. It's usually just some tabs that hold it on, or 1 or 2 screws. So I'm going to finish topping this off. Always get a nice clean funnel and kind of jam it in there the best you can, and take your time filling her up. And you should be good. So use my 0-20 weight, and we got her all topped off. I'm going to go inside. We're going to reset the counter. I'm going to show you how to do that. I pulled it out of the bag just to make it a little easier to film doing the reset. So normally what you got to do is just turn the car on. You're going to go to the oil life. You're going to hold the reset button on this one until it comes up. And then you're going to get your maintenance page. Go to your oil life. And then you're going to turn it to reset it. So we're going to oil life, hold the button for about 10 seconds. Every car is a little different. Make sure you just YouTube it if you don't know how to do it. Most of them are pretty similar. So we're turning it to oil life. And hit the button. And it's going to come up, it says 15%. I'm holding it. And then after about 10 seconds it should reset. It says 100% oil life. That's it. We're done. Let the car run for a little while. Go under, check the dipstick, make sure it's good to go. You're at the appropriate level. If not, add some oil, or usually I put it in what they recommend, then I'll check it and then add a quart if I need it, or a half quart or whatever. Now's the perfect time to give your car a little love and clean out the interior, which a lot of people don't do. Vacuum the carpets, it's going to take you another 20 minutes, 30 minutes maybe, but it's definitely going to extend the life of the car and make it a lot better for if you're going to resell it down the road. Well, thanks for stopping by Brickhouse Garage. Make sure you like and subscribe. I know this is a pretty common thing, but you'd be surprised how many people don't know how to do it. I just had a guy who's an aircraft mechanic come over and never changed his brake pads before. So just giving you a couple little hints on how to do it the way I do it, and maybe save yourself a couple bucks. But most importantly, give yourself a chance to look into the vehicle more and see if there's anything else wrong. And on top of that, it's a good start if you want to get to know your car and start doing a little more maintenance. This is a nice basic project to do on the weekend with your kids or whatever. Okay, thanks again for stopping by Brickhouse Garage. So we had a nice easy job today. We just did an oil change on the mother-in-law's car. It's a really great car to daily drive and stuff like that. But at least we got underneath the vehicle, which, let's face it, you're not going to crawl under there for no reason. So if you do your own oil change, it gives you a reason to get underneath the car. You can look and possibly find something that is going to cost you way more money down the road, like say a blown ball joint, or something, a castellated nut coming loose, Or hey, just your brake pads being low, so now you're not going to destroy that rotor because the pad's just trashed. So we got under the car, we got to do some inspections, we cleaned up a bunch of mess on the inside, we checked our tire pressure. So if you do all these things, it kind of makes it worth it for you to just do your own oil change, because hey, it is the same price, but you're not going to see all those things. And maybe they are going to be like, hey, you should look at this, or hey, you should do this. But that lube tech is trying to knock him out as fast as he can, because that's the only way he makes money. So if you do it yourself, you can take your time, look around, you know, maybe spend an hour, come on, and save yourself a bunch of money in the long run. So any topics or videos, make sure you like and subscribe. Go ahead and leave them in the comments. And we'll see you again here on Brickhouse Garage. Have a great day.